This is Creative Love Radio, episode number 4, Creating the Mindset of Love. Welcome to Creative Love Radio with Debbie and Dr. Rob. With love, the old rules of dating and commitment no longer apply. The technology's changing, roles are changing as women are stepping into their power all around the world. And the way to approach relationships needs to evolve with them. We are redefining relationships to guide you to greater love, more success, and living your purpose through the latest research in neuroscience, Jungian psychology, and Eastern wisdom. Get ready for another inspirational episode of Creative Love Radio. Welcome again to Creative Love Radio. This is Debbie Maldonado, and I'm here with my lovely husband, Dr. Rob.
Hello.
Today we're talking about the mindset of love, creating love. And, you know, when I first started doing personal development in my 20s, I listened to tapes that said, I love myself, I feel good about myself, I'm lovable.
And God darn it, people like me.
Gosh darn it, people do like me. And so the question is today, what is mindset? And people have asked us a lot, like vision boards and thinking positive, and how does that play into finding love? Does it really help? Does it work? Affirmations.
Yeah, and the way people use the term mindset is different or it varies, let's say, from the way we use it or the way we think about it. Certainly, the academic definition of mindset is kind of they see it as an attitude towards learning, right? So they think if you are open to learning about learning, then you have a heads up on learning, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you can approach any subject and you say, okay, how am I going to learn this subject? So now you're thinking about the way you're learning, which is kind of a higher level than just trying to learn something directly.
Like I'm doing this. Knowing the steps to something, but understanding why, like say a technique of something, like why do I do that? You just know you just have to do it this way instead of learning why I'm learning it.
Yes, that's it. And that's a beautiful idea, right? Mm-hmm. Obviously, that's a great mindset to have, to think about how you're learning things and the way you're digesting knowledge and using it in a constructive way, creative way. The way we use mindset is a little bit different because we really embrace kind of a broader definition of what the mind is and what consciousness is, and it goes to our Eastern roots. Mm-hmm. You know, we love the ancient teachings, the wisdom teachings of the East of meditation and understanding our mind in a direct way by going inward. Right? Not just depending on somebody to tell us, believe this and this is the way it is, but no, we want to know for ourselves.
What's the mechanism, right?
Yeah.
How does this work?
And if we can't experience it ourselves, we're not interested in it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we want to see it for ourselves. I don't want to believe anybody telling me this is the way it is. I want to see it for myself. I want to go there.
So people that think of mindset, I know for me, I always thought it was just my thinking that I was aware of, that my chatter in my head, the stories. And if I changed the story in my mind, then the reality out there would change. But it really wasn't really helpful because it was just basically working on what I was aware of in the surface.
Right. And so our concept of mindset includes the unconscious mind. Mm-hmm. That, as Jung says, most of our mind is unconscious. That is, not that it's that the mind is unconscious, but that we are unconscious of it, right?
Yes. It's conscious, but we're not aware of it.
Yeah, that we are not aware of what's going on beneath the surface. So if you visualize an iceberg, the tip of it is above the water level, and we can observe it, we can see it. But most of the iceberg is beneath the water, and we can't see it. And that's the unconscious mind.
And that influences our life much more than just the chatter. because we think of the mindset, the chatter in the stories, as more of an effect rather than the cause, which is a lot different than some people teach. They think that if I think and talk to myself with positive self-talk, everything will change, but that's really, you're kind of just working on a very mechanical way, and you're really moving against the current of the unconscious that's really driving the results. So it's like almost like pulling teeth to think positive, like looking in the mirror and going, yes, I am beautiful. And the mind's kicking back going, no, look at this blemish, or look at that hair. Or you were younger once. And that kind of kickback is really showing us the resistance to really adopting an idea. And so we can pretend, and there's people that they talk positive to themselves or in denial of their negativity, that we really need to look at the whole mind, not just what we're conscious of.
Right. And so if you want to understand your mindset, let's say if you want to know where you're at as far as your mindset, all you have to do is look around you. What have you created with your life?
Yeah.
Because by their fruits you shall know them, meaning your mind will simply create what the assumptions of its limitations are and the assumptions of its possibilities are. So if you look at the totality of your life right now, and meaning look at your relationships, look at how much money you make, look at what kind of work do you do. Are you passionate about your work? Are you engaged in your life? Are you happy?
Look at your body shape.
Are you happy with your body? Are you engaged with your body? Are you connected with that mind-body experience? All those things, the totality of all those things are basically the fruits of your mindset. They are expressing your mindset. So if you're not happy with any of those things, that means there's aspects of your life or of your mind that you are unconscious of.
And so thinking about the mindset being the cause and the external being the effect.
Absolutely.
But the cause is not the external. I think of the external is as the story that we know, that we're conscious of, is an effect of the deeper root in the unconscious. So I think a lot of people work on the effect of, oh, I'm thinking negative, so let me think positive, but you're not really getting to the root. So you're just rearranging that furniture. It's like, if you really, you have to ask yourself, like you said, why do I think that I'm not good enough? Or why do I doubt myself? Instead of saying, I don't doubt myself anymore, everything's great. If you don't examine why, what the root is, well, what is that about? It's not really going to change anything because you're not really getting to the meat of it all and the source of it all.
Right, and you hit on something very important, which is cause and effect. Most people, if you examine the way they operate, not if, they might tell you, yes, I know that the mind is the cause, but if you examine the way they're operating, they have it backwards. They're waiting for external circumstances to tell them what they should feel. So in other words, when I get the raise, when I get the $1 million, when I get the right relationship, when I get the right car and the right house, I'll be happy. So they're putting essentially the cause of their happiness as external.
Yes.
Externally driven. When those things are evident to me through my senses, when they're out there, then I will react with happiness. So they're putting the cart before the horse. They're saying...
How old are you, Rob? The cart and the horse? I'm just kidding.
Okay.
Back in those days?
The Uber before the helicopter. I don't know.
Just kidding.
So they're saying when an external situation arises, then my mind will react with happiness. Now that's, it makes sense in a sensory way. That's the way we see the world.
That's the way we've been conditioned, too.
Yeah, and we experience it this way, as it's out there, and then I react to things out there. But the deeper reality, the deeper understanding that comes both from neuroscience and from the Eastern wisdom traditions is that mind is the cause. If you are not happy in your mind, you will not see it externally in any external events. So to wait for things to line up out there in order for you to be happy, you're going to be waiting a long time. And when things do arise and you react with happiness, it's only going to last a very brief moment, as long as that sensory experience is there. And then as it fades away, you're going to lose that happiness, because mindset comes first. Your mind has to be happy. It has to be abundant. It has to be ready for relationships before you see it outside.
So here's a good example that everyone can relate to in dating is you meet someone, they text you and say, let's get together. They text now, they don't call. And the date comes of the date and they don't respond to you. They don't confirm that date yet. And so your mind starts to think, oh, all the terrible things that, who is this person? And am I going to go on this date? And then as soon as they text you and they say, hey, are we still on for tonight? All of a sudden that immediate relief, right? That, oh, okay, they're still interested. That is tying your happiness to the external. Now, of course, we want love, so it's rational, right? Like, of course I should be happy when he responds because I like him and something good. But when we're all caught up in it, we see that the misery that our mind caused before he texted, that we were waiting for that external experience to have that happen. So imagine getting into a relationship with this person. Every time you're gauging your own happiness based on their behavior. Mm-hmm. That is a prison. That is when he shows he affection to me, when he shows he's interested, when he wants to make that commitment, then I'll be happy. And we're just kind of it's like he keeps giving us the little pellet, just like those animal psychological experiments. And then we feel good, and then we get the sting, and we're caught up in this conditioned relationship that is not about love. It's about feeding your ego. And so the mindset gets all caught up in that they're giving me that happiness. When they give me love and they show me I feel worthy. And so you see how that really is a losing game, because we never get power.
Yeah. There's another level to that scenario also, is that we're expecting happiness to come from that person.
Yeah.
And in other words, that person is supposed to provide happiness for me. And as long as they do that, I'm happy, I'm okay. But if they don't do that, then, I'm angry, pissed off, I'm out of here, whatever. Now, that scenario, nobody can really provide happiness and love in that way for you. Nobody's going to come and rescue you that way. In other words, if you expect somebody to bring happiness to your life through relationship, you're on a fool's errand. Basically, you're hoping for kingdom come in the wrong things. You have to generate that state of mind first. You have to be open for love. You have to be ready to give love before you can receive it. In other words. Now, if your heart is closed and you're expecting somebody to come and open it for you, you're going to be waiting a long time. And any kind of relationship you create will be disappointing because nobody can give you love if you're not ready to experience it within your own heart.
And when you say disappointing, that's interesting, because we know what we're bringing into a relationship from ourselves by how we respond to it. So that scenario where you're waiting for them to text you, and then they text you and you feel relief, they didn't do anything to you. That was your mind doing that. And so when we talk about mindset, that's what we're talking about, is how is my mind operating? How is it interpreting the events out there and creating a reality of this person is a terrible person, but then they respond and now they're the greatest person, right? How many times have we said that? When they love me, they're great. When they don't love me, they're not. And that we get caught up in if I just think more positive, I'll get a different result. But we're still basing it, this idea of the law of attraction, right? That if I think positive, I'm going to draw it in like a magnet. And what we're really thinking of it in a way, like you said, perception. It's the law of perception, meaning that what I believe in my mindset my perception is going to be kind of covering the world, and that's what we're going to see. So you can have the most incredible man or woman in front of you that's willing to love you, but if your perception is I'm not lovable or I'm afraid of love, you're going to cloud that distorted opinion of that person. Either they're going to be needy, or they're the wrong age, or they're not attractive enough, or they have undesirable quality. Maybe they don't have the job that, career that fits with you. And then you'll dismiss them and you'll go for the person that fits that fits your narrative, which is, I'm not deserving of love, or I don't want to get anyone to get close to me. And so we see that the person can be right in front of us, and we'll be blind to it. And that's why I feel we see a lot of with people is that it's kind of like we open up the blinders for them so they could see the person that sometimes has been in their life the whole time, but their mindset was perceiving that reality in such a distorted way that they couldn't even see the love that was right there. And so it's not that you're not lovable. That's a misconception. We're all lovable. We're all love. That's who we are.
Yeah, and this idea of perception, it comes from both the current neuroscience and what it's telling us about the way we perceive the world, as well as the ancient Eastern wisdom. It has to do with the way consciousness is very fluid. It's very much like water. Whatever container you pour it into, it takes the shape of that container. So our mind is, let's say, the container and the shaper of the container. What we believe and what we assume is possible is our container. Mm-hmm. Then consciousness simply creates it for us. It pours itself into that space, and it becomes what we see in the world. So if our assumptions are that I'm not lovable, people are bad, or there's no good men, no good women out there for me, guess what I'm going to see?
Or I can't trust men.
Or I can't trust other people. Mm-hmm. Our reality will confirm that for us, and we'll say, you see, I was right.
And then we'll say that we get people arguing with us all the time, but you don't know. The people in New York are this way, and the men at over 40, they're looking for a 20-year-old, and all that. You're not out there. You don't know what I see, and the outside world feels so real and so definite and so conclusive, and what we're really seeing is just our own mind.
Yes,
and it's so amazing when you I always equate it to The Matrix, because I love that movie, where he sees the code, and it's like you can see the code and then you can change it. But unless you see it, that's the difference. So when we go back, let's go back to thinking positive and that affirmations. You could see that we're basing those affirmations on what we are conscious of. Mm-hmm. These things that we think we're conscious of that are what they call it, the negative thinking, or some people call it the gremlins that are in our mind, that negative thought. But the ego, that's the natural state of the ego. It's always judging and looking and trying to protect you. And it kind of has a little kind of a cynical attitude about the world. So it's not going to think like, you don't wake up in the morning and go, love is in the air, I'm going to find it. You go, another day, I'm single, I'm never going to meet anyone. So it's kind of like that nagging voice, but that's the ego just kind of trying to figure things out, and it is very cynical. So it's a natural way. So trying to fix that and make it more positive is almost like, I always say, it's like taking a spoonful out of the ocean, like you're trying to change the ocean with a spoon. And no, you have to just accept the ego for what it is, and then access the deeper parts of your mind that already knows the truth.
That's
not
right.
It's like talking to someone who believes in a different religion as you, or other political, you see what politics people see in their mind, like this is real and I believe this. It's hard to change someone's mind. And so it's hard to change that ego mind. So what we need to do is go beyond it. And that's really what mindset in our work is.
Right. So positive affirmations would work, but at a deeper level. When
Yes.
you understand that there is this deeper mind beyond the ego. Because if you're saying positive affirmations at the persona level, right, believing that you are the persona and you're buying into the ego story, the limited ego story that you're observing, and you're using positive affirmations to try to get out of that, all you're doing is feeding it. You're giving it more energy. First of all, you're implying by simply affirming against its assumptions that it's real.
Yes, you're actually saying, yes, I do believe I'm unlovable, so I have to retrain my mind to think I am, right?
Yes, exactly. So you're feeding it inadvertently by doing that.
You're giving it like almost like, oh yeah, I have to fix you.
Yeah, you're arguing with a drunk person, basically.
The drunk person in your mind.
Yeah. Or a bratty little child, right, that has, wants cotton candy for dinner, and you're trying to persuade them not to have cotton candy.
And you're also on an affirmation level, we're only working on the persona. And we know that we have a shadow, we have a collective unconscious, we have deeper parts of our psyche. So you saying I am lovable is just my persona is lovable. So is that really going to change anything if the unconscious isn't addressed?
Yeah. So mindset from this perspective is very different. Now we start to see that if we really want to affect change in our lives, we have to understand the nature of mind. And what do we mean when we say I? I am lovable. Am I talking about me as the persona? The sense of me, the way I present myself to society and the way I think myself as a social being? Or am I really talking about this deeper part of the whole me, what Jung called the self, the real self, the actualized self? If I'm talking about the actualized self, then I can definitely use my mind to create a deeper, a more meaningful reality for myself.
Kind of like a broader conception of yourself, that you're not just your persona, that I am the self. And so when you say I am lovable, it's true because the self is the universe. Some people think of the divine, that divine, of course, is lovable. It's love, so why, of course that's true. But if you're coming from the persona to basically compensate and say I'm lovable because I'm lovable because I feel like I'm unlovable, like trying to fix it, you're just kind of, like I said, rearranging the furniture, and you're giving that energy to that persona being defined by what does that even mean, right? What does it mean to be lovable, right? How do you measure that, right? So think about dating. I'm lovable when someone agrees to be in a relationship with me. I'm lovable when someone tells me, I love you, right? And so, again, we're using this affirmation to create something that we're tied to externally, and we're defining ourselves. And this is just how we grew up, right? We measured ourselves based on the external environment, but we're still doing it and we're not free.
Yes. So another question they have is this idea of vision boards.
Yes.
Do these vision boards work, and do they help? There's nothing wrong with them. Obviously, it's better to think positive, and it's better to have goals and clear ideas of what you want in your life, and to kind of fill your mind with those things. Mm-hmm. But again, if you're using those to simply compensate, let's say I have a feeling of lack in my persona ego mind, and therefore I want to fill it up and compensate with a big house or a big car.
Or lots of cash on my vision board.
Yes. You're simply augmenting the story, let's say, of lack, and you're trying to compensate by creating wealth or a relationship to make you feel better about it. So you're still caught up in the same story, the same ego story of lack.
Because no matter how much money you have, you'll still be trying to run away from lack. It'll just never be enough.
Yeah, you're simply trying to fix it in a way by patching it up with wealth or relationship. So that kind of work is not going to lead to real happiness and real transformation. It might lead, there might be some improvement, and you might have better, material success or even a relationship in your life. But it's not really going to be any different than the defensive, limited mindset that you started out with, except that it's going to be a bigger story.
And a lot of times more intense, that they say, be careful what you ask for. And we see this too. People that have that lack mentality, it doesn't matter how much money they have. There's someone who can make $30,000 a year and feel abundant and spend money and be happy and go on their little vacations and save up, and they kind of have that abundance. And then there's people that make $1 million and they put everything in the bank because they're afraid if they spend the money, they're gonna lose it. And so it really isn't, like you said, the rich man clings to his mansion as much as the homeless man clings to his box, that he lives in. It's the same attachment. And with love too, if you think that if I'm lovable when this other person comes into my life and they call me and they show that they care, or they say they love me, or they propose to me, it'll never end. There'll never be enough love. That person will always have to give more, and your mind will always be looking for ways that they're not loving you, right? They'll give you 10 wonderful love languages, like they're giving you the words and they're giving you the flowers and their generosity and all that silly stuff, and then you're thinking, oh, they love me now. But then you'll be the one to think, well, they didn't take the garbage out, so they must not respect me. And your mind will just take on that one little piece, and it's almost like a little kindling. It'll start to build, and if it's there still, it's going to be awakened in the relationship and magnified in the relationship. So understanding your mindset as a whole and how your mind works is going to help you be more empowered in a relationship and understand what is really happening.
Right. So just to recap, there's nothing wrong with those things. It is better to think positive than to, have your mind in the gutter. And but if you want real change, and if you want to really understand your mindset, look around you. Take stock of your life in relationships, in abundance, in whatever area you're interested in, and really look at what you've created. That is reflecting your mind, what you really believe, what your true assumptions are about life is simply reflected in your external circumstances. Now, don't despair, because the understanding is this, that if you created this, that means you can recreate it, you can change it, you can augment it, you can really change it at a deeper level. But you have to be willing to go into what is it? What is the true nature of my mind, right? And the simple understanding is this, that the mind is the cause, and that the results are being reflected out there, not the other way around.
And we begin to do that by asking ourselves too, after you take that assessment, is why would I create that in the first place? That's really going deeper. You're not going to answer that in one day, but that's the deeper question. The deeper question is, okay, I created this, but why? And then if you know why, then you can get out of it. But if you don't know why you created it in the first place, not like, oh, because my mother, was abandoned me when I was 5, or not that story, but why? Like, what is the mechanism in me, or the misunderstanding, or the assumption that I'm making that is creating this reality? If you understand that deeper why, you'll be able to change that assumption. But the assumptions of why we create things are very, very unconscious. So that's really where we go deeper. And so it's a beautiful journey to go inside the mind, go deeper, and a great show today.
Food for thought.
Yes, food for thought. We'll see you on next week on our next episode, and we're going to really go even deeper, and I hope you're enjoying the podcast. It's really fun for us to do.
Absolutely. See you soon.
Take care, everyone. Have a great week. You've been listening to Creative Love Radio with Debbie and Dr. Rob. For more information, visit us on our website at creativelove.com.